Salutations, people of the internet, welcome to the database. Much like its Australian marsupial counterpart, Spyro's first outing has become a massive success, and thus a sequel greenlit immediately. Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage released on the PlayStation 1 a year later after the first game in 1999, and they managed to make a ton of improvements to the original game, adding in new features that help make this game unique to the original, new characters that would become staples in the Spyro universe, and a new formula when it comes to finding this game's MacGuffins. It's still Spyro as a 3D platformer with gem collecting, gliding long distances, and fire breathing, but what else does the sequel include to make it worth it as a sequel? Fun fact, I forgot to mention this last Spyro video. For all three of the classic Spyro games, you can play demo versions of different Crash Bandicoot games. For Spyro 1, it's a demo of Crash 3 Warped. Spyro 2 has a demo of Crash Team Racing, and Spyro 3 has a demo of Crash Bash. The less said about Crash Bash, the better. With that said, let's dive into the game and check out what this sequel has in store. This is Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage, also known as Spyro 2 Gateway to Glimmer in the UK. Footage will be captured through the Spyro Reignited Trilogy. The story of Spyro 2 takes place immediately after the first game. After Spyro successfully defeated Nasty Narc, he and Sparks decide to take a nice vacation to Dragon Shores to celebrate. Nasty Narc. However, upon going to the Dragon Shores portal, Spyro and Sparks ended up in the world of Avalar, where they meet Hunter the Cheetah, Elora the Fawn, and the Professor. I think he's a mole. These three ask Spyro to stop the evil sorcerer Ripto from taking over Avalar with the assistance of his minions Crush and Gulp. In order to stop Ripto, Spyro needs to find orbs all across the world of Avalar. Avalar being the main location of this sequel, a world split into three locations: Summer Forest, Autumn Plains, and Winter Tundra. In order for Spyro to proceed and gather more orbs, he also needs to collect talisman in each of the stages. Once Spyro and his new friends reach the Winter Tundra, Spyro and Ripto square off in their final battle, and the boss battles in Spyro 2 are already leagues better than the previous games' bosses. Ripto, Crush, and Gulp feel like actual boss fights, with actual patterns and hit points. And in the case of the final boss fight with Ripto, both boss and Spyro use the orbs we've collected that also grant them different power-ups. It's so cool. Ripto gets defeated and the Professor uses the orbs he collected to power up the portal, allowing Sparks and Spyro to go back home and start their vacation in Dragon Shores. But that's not the end of the game yet, as we get to play through Spyro's little vacation as a completion reward. Dragon Shores features different minigames hosted by the Narcs for some reason, where Spyro gets to earn tokens that unlock a theater to watch the game's cutscenes. If players manage to collect everything in the game, they're rewarded with a permanent power-up, that being a powerful fireball breath. Freaking useless now because you completed a game, yeah sure, but overwrite your previous save file with a new one, and boom, now you can use this power up from the very beginning. Speaking of power ups of gameplay features, let's talk about that one next. As a sequel, Spyro has all of his abilities from the previous game: gliding, charging, breathing fire, and if you pick this on the Reignited Trilogy, the rollings here. The new feature in this sequel includes this extra hover Spyro can do after a glide, and if you're close to a nearby platform, Spyro can also climb across vertical walls, and water is no longer a hazard as Spyro can finally swim. But you get these new abilities from everyone's favorite greedy prick, Moneybags. Moneybags is this gem-hoarding bear that loves to find these pathetic excuses to take some of your gems, whether it's blocking off entrances to specific areas of a stage, to making you pay for ability that you need. He even makes you pay for different portals to access. For God's sake, he's like a microtransaction paywall before these things even existed. But no worries. You do get all your gems back after completing the game's story. The way you get these gems also changed when comparing the game to the original. Rather than getting gems from enemies now offer up their souls. That opens up power-up gates if you have the required amount. Each stage has its own power-up gate that's suited for that stage and its missions. I mentioned a permanent upgrade, the fireball, but there's also limited flying, gates that turn into springs, and the supercharge ability is now tied to these gates, rather than relying on tracks. No more treetops. And yes, missions are the key element for Spyro's 2 and in Spyro 3, as completing missions are the key to progression if you gathering orbs and talisman. Talisman are collected by reaching the end of the stage, and these talisman are required to reach the boss stages of Crush and Gulp. These were easy to get by, but whoever decided to ramp up the difficulty in Gulp's boss fight in the Reignited Trilogy needs to be punished severely. Orbs are collected as you traverse across the stage for gems. You run into an NPC that hosts an orb mission, talk to them, and this is where you complete the task given for an orb. Sometimes it's collecting or defeating X amount of stuff in a stage or doing a little mini game, but for Winter Tundra's case, rather than a talisman, you're rewarded with said orb at the end of the stage instead. Speedways are back and they're the same as before, with a new addition. In each speedway stage, there is a hidden orb mission you can find. This can be done by talking to the NPC of the stage, mostly Hunter, and you and Hunter team up to complete it as many times as you can. Most of the missions here comprise of doing things without missing anything or going out of course, which is something you'll end up doing easily. These missions can be hard as hell. There are some missions in Spyro 2 that you can't do immediately, mostly because you need a specific ability unlocked before doing so. One of the infamous examples of this is the one with the alchemist in Fractured Hill. First off, you need to talk to Hunter, who's stuck in the cement. Second, you find the alchemist and you need to guide him to Hunter across these hulking giant rock monsters. Screw up once and you start from the beginning. The alchemist frees Hunter from the cement, but then Hunter tells you that you need the head bash ability at a later time. Unlock the ability and fucking Hunter is stuck in the cement again. Meaning you need to do the guiding the alchemist mission again, even though we already finished that mission. That's because every time you leave a stage in Spyro 2, the entire stage layout resets, including enemy placements. So if you want to use that stage's special ability gate, you need to beat the enemies again. Why? Sunny Beach. One of the stages you'll come across in the first world has this annoying mission with this penguin who wants to turn turtles into soup. It's easy the first time around for the first orb mission, but getting the second orb for this mission was a pain in the ass. If you're just flaming the turtles away from the pot, you're gonna have a bad time. And it only took me nearly 5 minutes to realize that it's much easier to headbutt the turtles and let them ricochet across the stage instead. Could've told me this sooner. But hey, there were stages that I do enjoy. Metropolis hosts this only special ability gate in the game, where you can fly and shoot fireballs, and it was really satisfying shooting down these UFOs. Cloud Temples has 2 things I enjoy: the introduction of elemental ice breath for this mission involving bell towers, and this stealth mission involving this giant oaf named Agent Zero.
I'm a secret agent. I'm going to my secret hideout. Only members of my secret club are allowed to go there. I'm not leaving unless you hide behind that tree so you can't see me. I'm a secret agent.
I also love the music more here than the original. The same composer came back to produce the game's soundtrack, and each stage here feels very unique and memorable from one another. It's why I enjoy stages like Colossus, a stage that hosts an icy hot ring that you can cheese, and probably the funniest way to defeat an enemy at the end of the stage. And I really love the puzzle-like missions seen in the Mystic Marsh and Zephyr. In Mystic Marsh, it's where you need to find the professor's pencil, and to do this requires you to place different objects into specific locations. There are no hints to the items you receive, but it requires your common knowledge about them. And in the world of Zephyr, there's this mission involving the professor again that wants Spyro to test out his seeds. And I actually don't mind this level of a trial and error here. This then leads to the interaction with Juliet, in which a dialogue delivery is butchered in the Reignited version.
Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou, Romeo? Oh, there's Romeo.
Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou, Romeo?
Speaking of the Reignited version, the trolley mission feels way easier here than in the original. And when I did screw up a few times to hear that
Trouble with the trolley, eh?
it's still manageable thanks to the fraction of a second slowdown for each time you try to shift lanes. Although swimming seems to be another thing the Reignited version seems to butcher as well, but it's still something I can easily overcome. My final grade for Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage is an A rank. Despite the hard and challenging orb missions that this game hosts, playing Spyro 2 normally was a blasting experience, way better than the game's first impression. I love the new format when it comes to gathering main collectibles in this game, and I love seeing all the different NPCs in these unique stages. It makes the world of Avalar feel alive compared to the empty landscapes of the original game, where it's just dragons, Norks, and this balloon guy. And I do love the new additions to Spyro's new circle of friends. Hunter is a lovable goofball, Alora is cute as hell in the Reignited version, and the professor... This impression of Avalar really helps thanks to the opening and closing cutscenes of each stage that tells the stage's narrative. In fact, this game has way more cutscenes and dialogue than the first game, which is very appreciative if Insomniac wants to tell a grand adventure. And it helped that Spyro is voiced by the great Tom Kenny.
Hey, Shorty, maybe I can help. What? You again? Yup. If you want to test that power crystal, why don't you try it on me?
One more thing, this game also introduces skill points for the first time ever, and these were a blast to go through, which helps for all three games, as some skill points ties into PlayStation Network trophies, perfect for platinum trophy hunting. Skill points here serve as neat bonuses for players to check off, and in the original, this unlocks an epilogue as to what some of our favorite characters were doing after the game. And in the Reignited trilogy, the game gifts you with these awesome concept art. Spyro 2 has amazing stages, memorable missions, and fantastic controls. Aside from the underwater physics, Ripto feels like an amazing final boss compared to Nasty, and this was a game that made me fall in love with Spyro more than ever. Although all of this made me excited for what Spyro 3 Year of the Dragon has to offer. So what do you think of Spyro 2? Which orb missions you enjoyed or don't enjoy completing? Did you have trouble with the trolley, eh? Let me know in the comments. I'm Christopher James, and I'll see you next time with Spyro 3.
Don't do that, Mikey. That's not a good idea, Mikey. Oh. Uh-oh.
Spyro's back. Mess with this dragon, and you'll get burned.
Now that's my idea of fun.
PlayStation